Okay, hello, can you hear me okay? Okay, so I'm Laura Bleak, I'm not Ian Reynolds, he's currently manning our stand in case anybody wants to go to it. So I'm here to talk to you today about operational research at British Airways. So first a little bit about my background. So I currently work as an OL consultant at BA. Before I worked there, so I've been working there since October last year. So before I worked there, I probably took a similar path to some of you guys here. So did a mathematical studies degree at Southampton, and then I actually stayed on and did my MSc in operational research there. And then I applied to BA, and then I work as an OL consultant there, and I'm currently supporting the ramp and baggage area as part of the operational projects team. So there's a few different teams in the OR department at BA, and I'll explain those in a minute. But the area I'm really supporting is anything that happens kind of below the wing of an aircraft, so anything that happens on the tarmac, anything to do with your bags, anything to do with all the little trucks that kind of drive around that you can see out the aircraft window sometimes. So I'm not in. So first a quick introduction to British Airways. So British Airways actually has roots back to 1919. So in some shape or form, so this was Imperial Airways, we've actually existed since 1919. So back in the day, it took 10.5 days to get to Australia. So we existed then, and we exist now. It doesn't fortunately take 10.5 days to get to Australia anymore. So these days, we carry 32 million passengers a year to 175 destinations, and that's on a fleet of over 250 aircraft, a lot of which are currently being replaced to nice shiny new ones, which is exciting. So we're also part of IAG, so that's an airlines group that includes British Airways, Iberia, and also recently Vueling have also joined that group. And we're also part of One World, so One World is a global alliance that has lots of airlines engaged in it. So a bit of an introduction to operational research at BA. So we're part of the strategy and business units area, that's where OR sits these days. And they're the 4 teams I said I'd tell you about. So end-to-end is a team that supports fleet ordering. It also supports network planning and scheduling. Also looks at some of the alliances we hold. So what airlines is it good for us to be in association with? Operational projects is where I work, so there's actually 2 parts to that. So that's passenger, so kind of looking at the passenger journey through the terminal, for example. Simulation models of how people tend to flow through a terminal, particularly Terminal 5 we've done a lot of modelling on, looking at things like how many check-in desks might we need, how many people might we need to man those, how many lifts might we need. Going to tell Heathrow Airport Limited, actually, we need a new lift because this one's too busy and we don't want our passengers to queue. Then commercial projects, so that kind of looks at supporting the customer insight side of things, so looking into marketing, looking into brands, and also helping to support the sales area. And then yield, support revenue management. So what they're really trying to do is make sure that we get a competitive price for the seats that we're selling, and that we're optimising how we sell our seats on those planes. So the airline industry is challenging, so as I'm sure you've all heard about, Heathrow expansion, does it happen, does it not? Do we get a third runway at Heathrow? Do we consider other options of extending some of the other airports, or building a new airport, Boris Island? What happens there? So it's a challenging industry, and we're constantly doing analysis of, well, actually, if we build a third runway at Heathrow, what does that mean for us? But what happens if we don't get to build it? Because Heathrow is very busy, as the picture tries to demonstrate, the first one. So it's trying to say that that's how many planes actually would love to take off in the air at Terminal 5 all at the same time. So obviously there's not space for everyone, and what challenges does that present? Fleet is a big challenge, so as I said, we've currently got new A380s coming in and 787s as well. So it's great that we have these shiny new planes, but how do we use them to the best of their ability? If we've got an A380, that means that we've got nearly double the seat used to have? Do we definitely have demand for that on-board route? So what routes do they fit best with? And also looking at things like what operational things have changed. So obviously it takes a lot longer to get passengers onto an aviator than it does to some of the smaller aircraft. And what changes does that mean for the operation? How exactly do we work around that? Again, so I mentioned before about IAG, and we also have joint businesses. So we have a joint business with American Airlines. We also have a joint business with JAL. So that JAL joint business is a bit more recent. And when we're looking at joint businesses, it's kind of saying, you know what, who can we work with that actually means that we're giving a better proposition to our customer? Who can we work with that means that actually we've got a better route network, we can offer a better route network to our passengers? And again, that's the same kind of essence of what One World is about. Who do we want to be in alliance with so that we can sell some of their seats, they can sell some of ours, we can kind of actually help each other out rather than competing with each other. Another challenge that we experience is fuel costs. So obviously with fuel price increasing, it's really important that actually fuel is increasing in price and we can't control that. So we have to make sure that we control all prices that we can control, try and keep them flat, try and reduce them where we can. And with fuel, actually, the only thing we can do to control that is to do some kind of hedging around how we buy that fuel. So it's just making sure that, again, that is done in the best way that we can. And also we look at how to reduce fuel. So, for example, we look at what we're flying on the plane. Actually, do we need 10 cases of red wine? So there was some analysis that was done about how much red wine is actually consumed. And you actually say, oh, okay, we don't need 10 cases. Actually, 8's fine most of the time. You're not going to run out. Don't keep flying with those extra cases back and forth. It's costing you money. Things like that is the kind of thing that we're trying to look at. So a flavour of what OR does. So this slide is really supposed to show you just that OR really touches all different parts of the airline. It really is involved in everything. Which is a nice claim to be able to make. So it just shows you here on the boarding pass all the different parts that we might have fed into. So, you know, we're looking at the branding, we look at loyalty, so again they're both they're both supported in the commercial area. We've got network planning, scheduling, that area is supported by our end-to-end team. In-flight customer experience, BA.com, again commercial, a bit of yield touching in there, and BA.com and how to optimise our prices. Then got baggage and ground operations, so that's the area that my team supports, the ops team. Revenue management, which we mentioned, strategy, so kind of where do we fly to, we support. Then customer proposition, so what are we offering them, you know, how many seats on the plane should be first, how many should be club, how many should be economy, what demand are we really looking at, and then again alliances. So I thought I'd tell you a bit about my first year at BA. So it's all very well and good telling you about the general things that BA can offer an OR, but I think it's always nice to hear a personal experience. Kind of makes it feel a bit real, hopefully. So the induction was really great. So you literally start and you get stuck in straight away. So in my first few weeks, they were taking me on tours of behind the scenes in baggage. I was in high-vis head to toe. And I was getting to go and see what really happens behind the scenes in the airport. You know, they got us out onto the runway, seeing the aircraft taking off from quite a close distance. It's a bit scary, but exciting. You know, we went to go and see cargo, we went to engineering, we went to go and see some of the planes that are being painted again, so they're doing some respray jobs on some of the planes. We went to see a plane that actually had most of the inside stripped out, and it's just amazing to see the different parts of the airline, and it really makes you excited about where you're working. As well as that, we're also, when you start at BA in OR, you're actually in a permanent role. So it's a bit different to some graduate schemes. So some graduate schemes you're kind of rotating around, and at the end of a certain period of time you have to then apply for a job. But what's different at BA is actually you have a permanent job on day one. This is your contract. You know, we're not going to make you stay forever if you don't want to, but what's exciting is that there's no worry about where your job's going. You know, you've got that security. And it also means that you get to contribute to a team from day one. You're there, you're part of a team, you can contribute to that. You're not disappearing in a few months' time, you can kind of really get involved. And again, that is important, you know, both from a professional point of view, of being able to contribute to a team and help drive change, help make decisions. You're listened to from the beginning. You're not discouraged from speaking up and asking a question. At the end of the day, when people are fresh to something, actually they might be able to see something people have been working for the airline for 20 years might not be able to see. It's always good to have that fresh perspective. You're always encouraged to speak up in meetings. The other great thing about being part of a permanent role is, this is my desk, this is me, and you can really get involved in things. You can start making friends, you can start socialising with people in the office, and you can get really rooted into the OR community, which is something we really try to pride ourselves on at BA. So that's kind of like, there's a lot of social aspects of it. We have something called the OR Games, which is something we do each month between the 4 teams. We have some kind of competition. So sometimes it's more sporty, so we've done volleyball or something like that, but then I actually, and as an OR Games captain, ran a spread betting session on the Wimbledon OR Games, so we all kind of gambled with pretend money for a week and saw who was winning at the end. Things like that, pub quizzes, things like that. It tends to change month to month, but it's all very exciting. From a project's point of view, I've done a few. I'm sure I've already told some of you about things we didn't understand earlier, so I won't try to repeat myself too much, but there's some great techniques that we've been allowed to use, and the variety that you get offered at BA is brilliant. I mean, one day I can be in a workshop doing some problem structuring, trying to lead a workshop of 8 senior managers saying, right, come on, I need your help here, let's try and work out where the real root of this problem is, let's get our post-it notes out, let's work out where the key issues are, and really understand what we can do to change this. And then the next day I can be sat at my desk for the day going, okay, I need to build this simulation model today, actually I'm going to sit and get engrossed in the code, I'm going to try and work out what I need to do to make this simulation model work really well. Also been doing some VBAs, some spreadsheet modelling to kind of feed into that, so there's a nice breadth there of hard skills. We use a lot of SQL and SAS, but there's no need to worry if you haven't been trained in any of these things. All the training is part of the inductions, so that's really great. We don't assume you need to have any pre-knowledge of some of these skills because everyone comes from different backgrounds. And then another day I can be, actually we're doing a trial on this new process that we've kind of designed, so actually can you come down to the baggage hall with your high-vis gear on and your safety boots, we need you to have a look at what's going on, come and actually see it in the real flesh. And I think that actually being able to get down and get involved in that is really, really valuable. It helps, being able to see it for real really helps you be able to drive the changes when you're back in the office, when you're back in those workshops, really helps you understand how to build that simulation model. And it's a really great way to work. A nice balance of soft skills and you're also backing the fundamental hard skills as well. In my experience, I've been able to really develop quite a breadth of knowledge. I've been really trained and encouraged in my soft skills. I've also been trained in some of my hard skills. I mean, I'd never used SQL before, never used SAS, and now sometimes I can do it, without asking a question, which to me is quite an exciting thing. The support is really there. It's a good support network, and as I said, no question's a silly question. People who've been there 20 years are, they don't ever look down on you if you ask a question. They're always there to help, and there's a real atmosphere of actually we're a team, let's do this together, and everyone kind of mucks in and helps each other out. So yeah, I think that is pretty much me, so hopefully I'm nicely on time. That's what the end of, which again isn't me. So if you would like to apply, you just need to go to the website. So the website's right there, hopefully nice easy one to remember. We've also got some brochures. Stand back on our stand. I also left a few at the back of the hall, a bit cheeky. But if you want to pick one up, help yourself. The application process is really simple. It's an online application. It's quite short, which I personally found very helpful when I did it just over a year ago. I was busy doing my masters. I didn't have a lot of time to spend trawling through pages of forms and thinking of answers to all these questions. It's a nice succinct one, so that's good. And then it's a telephone interview and then an interview in person. So again, hopefully not too much of a time-consuming process. We want you to concentrate on your studies rather than always being thinking about what you're going to do next in your recruitment. So yeah, thank you very much. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions for Laura?
If you do think of a question you would like to ask, then please come to the stand.
I've got one that they should ask. Did you say anything about the travel perks?
Oh, wow. I mean, obviously, I've completely missed that out. The travel perks are brilliant. So from day one, you get reduced price tickets. So that's for you, your friends and family. I think there's a limit of something like 100 flights a year for that. So that's a normal ticket. You just get to go through a different way to BA.com and you can book all your tickets. So that's like a significant percentage off. But the real dream of working at BA is that after 6 months, you get your staff travel. So if you like a bit of risk, it's definitely very fun. So after 6 months, you and 2 travel companions are able to use standby travel. So that means that essentially, if nobody else wants to get on that plane, you can at a very, very reduced price. So as long as you pick your flights right, and if you are friendly with the revenue management team, who have a very up-to-date view of exactly what's going on, you can pick some flights, so you can go to some great places. So actually I went to Barbados on my first trip for about a quarter of the price that I'd normally have to pay. So there was 9 of us who started in my year and 7 of us went on a week away in Barbados. I mean, I don't know how they coped without us. I mean, 7 people missing at the same time, but we went to Barbados for a week and we did it on a budget. I mean, we'd all only just started work. We didn't have much, cash in our boots at all. So it's a really great opportunity. People go all over the world with it.
Those are the perks I would make mine now. Right, unless any other questions, let's thank Laura.